Okay, continuing this chapter. At the edge of the woods, the shadows suddenly changed shape. It seemed to unfold, and he realized it was a man. He had been running, bent over. What was he doing, and why was he acting so afraid? With a quick shiver, Hunter wondered if he had set the historic house on fire. There were people he knew who did that kind of thing. That old building would go up in flames like paper. Scenting the air like a hound, Hunter thought maybe he did smell smoke. He ran lightly across the road and onto the rickety porch. There was no flickering red aglow anywhere and no smoke. He looked again toward the woods. The man had disappeared, but Hunter noted the exact spot where he had been. Next day he would come by and examine the ground there. Walking back to the cabin, Hunter wondered if this was the vandal who had smashed his window in. If he found the mark of the broken heel, he would know it was for sure. In the morning, Hunter returned to the haunted house. He easily followed the bent grass and the weeds where the fleeing man had stepped. The ground there and under the trees was too dry, though, to show footprints, but Hunter felt sure the guy had worn soft shoes, not heavy boots. He grinned, thinking how interested Rusty would be in still another mystery. Now he could spend the rest of the day looking for the thief. At Arch Rock, Hunter settled into his lookout post before the first sightseers arrived. Soon, hordes of them began to come, and kept on coming. It was hot. Many bikes were left alone while their riders gazed in awe and took pictures. 2 or 3 hours went by, but still the thief did not show up. Just my luck, Hunter thought, to have the guy snatch one from the hotel beach or Sugarloaf today. Then Greg appeared. He stopped and looked around and then rode on toward Pine Point. He wondered, what was that kid doing? Hunter took out his notebook and studied it. Since the information had come from 4 shops, it was hard to get a picture overall. On a new page, he listed in order the date, time, and place each bike had disappeared. 2 days in a row, the Grand Hotel Beach had been victimized. Then, not again for a week. Bikes had disappeared for Arch Rock about every 2 or 3 days. In between, the thief was busy at Sugarloaf or at the fort. One bike had vanished from a lonely woods road while its rider wandered off to look for flowers. He studied the dates again and came up with a fact that interested him. No bikes had been stolen on Sunday. Was it chance, or was there a reason? Did it mean the thief had a job on Sunday? Hunter remembered hearing that extra men were hired to drive tourist rigs on Sundays. Was one of them the thief, doing sneaky business on the weekdays and driving around like an honest person on Sunday? Busy with these puzzles, Hunter had not kept watch of the road. It was only by luck that he looked up just in time to see a man on a green 10-speed whiz by headed for town. It was a rental, and the rider was wearing a built-up shoe. Hunter scrambled to his feet, rushed across the road where he had left his bike behind a boulder. He reached in his pocket for the key, but it was not there. In a flash, he realized it could have slipped out along with his notebook. So back to his hiding place he ran. At first, he saw nothing and began to panic. Then, as he looked closer, he saw a gleam of metal. The key had fallen between 2 big rocks. It was hard to get out, but finally he had it, and he went racing after the suspect. Rounding the corner under the cliff called Robinson's Folly, he looked at the straight road ahead. There was no sign of the rider, but he rode on. The zigzag street up to the east bluff was empty too. At Marquette Park, Hunter stopped. Where to look now, Main Street or Market? He remembered seeing the man passing the beach the other day, so his hideout must be in that direction. Hunter sped along Market Street to the lakeshore. At the beach, the only bike in sight was coming toward him, and it was Greg. Hunter stopped and called out, "Say, did you see a guy on a green 10-speed, riding fast?" Hunter answered. "Why?" "Oh, never mind," Hunter snapped, "and quit bugging us." It was no use to look any further. He headed for the village to see his dad, who sometimes had Sunday off from his work at the stables. Bella and the children were on the porch of their box-like house trying to keep cool. "Hey," Hunter said, "where's Dad?" "In the backyard," his stepmother answered, so Hunter walked around the house. In a minute, he and Tim came back together. Hunter was 2 inches taller than his dad, tall and slender. Tim had a chest like a barrel and was strong, but due to an accident years before, he was bent and he had to walk with an awkward jerk. Looking at them and shaking her head, Bella laughed. No one would ever guess you are father and son. Even your skin color is different. Minnie spoke over from the corner where she and Adele were babbling over Barbie dolls. They've both got black hair, she said. But even their hair is different, Tim insisted. Tim's hair is soft and curly, but Hunter's is smooth and stiff. Oh, well, said Tim. The librarian says I'm a throwback to the French fur trapper, and Hunter is all Indian, just like the old chief. Bella, her yellow hair damp by her face, slumped back into the rocking chair. Well, Indian or French doesn't make us any cooler. On the floor, at her feet, 6-month-old Sam was playing with loose shoelaces. He was wearing only a diaper, and Hunter grinned to see the warm brown color of his skin. It looked just right, with his cap full of straight black hair. Sam was an Indian, even if his mother wasn't. Hunter picked up the baby and sat down on the step next to his dad. Sam opened his butt of a mouth, squeezing his fat cheeks up tight so his eyes were hidden. Hunter steeled himself for a mighty yell, but none came. Instead, the round black eyes opened and stared intently at Hunter. Then the mouth closed. Then the red lips parted into a smile, and Hunter's heart did a little flip-flop. The baby liked him. Tim asked Hunter how he was getting on for a job, so Hunter told him about showing Rusty the island. He also told him about helping Mrs. DuPont and Jancy with her hard luck on her rental. He asked Minnie, who was 10, if Jancy could use her bike for a week or two. The little girl hesitated, but when Hunter offered her a couple of candy bars, she agreed. Then Kirby came by and stopped to chat. As he leaned against the porch and pulled out a pack of cigarettes, a small piece of paper fluttered to the ground. He paid no attention, but Hunter, who couldn't stand litter, picked up the scrap and crumpled in his pocket. Bella asked Hunter to stay for lunch, but he wanted to get going. Soon he rode off, grasping the second bike by the center of the handlebars. At Craigmore House, Hunter knocked on the screen door. "Oh," Jancy exclaimed, "do you have my stolen bike?" "Well, no," Hunter said. "We'll come in anyways. I think Aunt Myra wants to see you." Hunter couldn't think why, but followed Jancy to the dining room. Mrs. DuPont smiled and told him to sit down. "Jancy, bring the young man some milk and a plate of cookies." "Thanks," Hunter said, puzzled. Mrs. DuPont started to explain. "I had the telephone connected," she said, "and you know who the first call was? A man named Hammergren. Do you know him?" "Yes, ma'am. He told me you're showing his son Rusty around the island." Hunter nodded. Mr. Hammergren felt sorry for Jancy because her bike got stolen. He invited her and me for dinner and the movies on Tuesday night. I don't feel like I'm going to go, but I let Jancy accept his invitation. I'll be glad to talk with you. What kind of man is Mr. Hammergren? Hunter hesitated, then he said, "I liked him right away. I think he's a man my grandfather would have liked and trusted." "What about his boy, Scott?" Rusty grinned. "Aunt Myra, don't call him Scott. His name is Rusty." Mrs. DuPont raised her eyebrows and looked questioning at Hunter. Again, the boy paused before answering. "I like Rusty," he said. "He's friendly. He doesn't think he knows everything. He's fun. He likes to see and learn new things." "He's not wild like some youngsters these days?" Mrs. DuPont asked. "Oh, no," was the answer. "Aunt Myra," Jancy put it, "I've just remembered. Rusty was dying to go with Hunter to chase the man who stole my bike. He didn't go because he had promised his dad to be back at a certain time." Mrs. DuPont smiled. "Well, that's a good point," she said. "Mr. Hammergren said he will escort Jancy home Tuesday, so I think maybe it will be all right." Her niece's brown eyes sparkled. "This will make up for some of the things that I am missing," she said. That reminded Hunter why he had come. "By the way," he said, "I borrowed my stepsister's bike for you to use. It's outside." The girl's face grew rosy with pleasure. "How super," she said. "Thank you. Can I get a lock for it?" "Maybe," Hunter told her, "but it's old and rusty, and so rusted, and so far only rental bikes have been stolen." "Oh, Aunt Myra," she exclaimed, "can I now please go places?" Mrs. DuPont gave a worried sigh. "I wish you didn't have to go alone," she said. Hunter screwed up his courage and said, "Mrs. DuPont, if Rusty and I come here tomorrow afternoon, could Jancy ride with us to British Landing to go for a swim? We'll show her a lot of the island." "Please say yes," Jancy begged her aunt. "Remember, I've been swimming since I was little. I've even passed the Red Cross Junior Life-Saving Test. please, Aunt Myra?" Finally, Mrs. Dupont agreed. Soon Hunter rode off, feeling things had turned out pretty well. He headed for home, eager to do some bird watching. If no bikes were stolen on Sunday, why waste the afternoon waiting for the thief to show up?